S.E.T Media, man. We are back with another one, man. Today we're about to get into this Candace Owens and Don Lemon's interview. We got it for y'all, man. Let's go.
And we can always get to that because that can be kind of boring. But I mean, do you feel like after you left the other platform that you were on, do you feel different? Has your attitude or anything about life or your political beliefs, or has that changed at all?
It hasn't changed. I would probably say that I experienced more of an internal sea change at the beginning of last year, when I was still on my other platform. And I think people saw that toward the end of me being on the other platform. And there was just, and the show was performing really well and really strong. And I think it was because
when you're one of these outspoken figures or personalities like a Candace Owens, a Donald Trump, a S.E.T Media, when you see that backlash and you see people disagreeing with you, sometimes vehemently disagreeing with you in your comment sections, maybe in person to your face, it really only emboldens you and makes you stand that much more firm on your beliefs. Like, damn, I'm just getting you niggas that tight. You know what? I think I'm gonna let my nuts hang a little bit lower on you niggas.
I had kind of broken with this idea that it's always like left versus right, and in a way that just welcomed more people into the show. So I personally changed, probably starting at the beginning of last year, I would say.
There were people who were saying, because you went on to The Breakfast Club, right? Mm-hmm. And they were saying, oh my gosh, Candace Owens is black again. She's going to come back to the black community and she's going to be black. And that's the way she's going to reemerge, much the same way that people said that I was going to be red-pilled.
I'd be highly offensive. Like, just because I'm talking on certain points, y'all try to take my black card away and then trying to say that, oh, well, me just getting on a Breakfast Club or getting on a black platform is what? Me trying to reclaim my black card? I don't think you can't take a person's race away. I'm sorry. If you feel like you can do that, well, you've been lied to.
When I came back to, whatever, the streaming and what have you, are you black again? Do you feel that? What do you think about that?
People are going to be so shocked to learn this, and I guess I'll just announce it here, but I've always been black. So it's like a thing. Every day, I've just been black my whole life. And it was interesting to see people take that
it might shock you to hear this, but I'm going to let you in on a little secret.
Narrative, because some people were like, she was doing this because, she decided to be black because she knew she was going to get fired. I'm like, this is ridiculous. I went on the network because I got invited to go on for the first time ever. That was just my luck. And I think it was in response to me having done Joe Budden's podcast, and Joe Budden said something nice about me on his podcast, and I reached out on my podcast. So that was all very natural. And when I went on The Breakfast Club, I still said what I always think. I think people may have heard it different. And again, I think that is in large part due to the fact that Americans are growing tired of the hostility left versus right. And people are starting to listen to different ideas and seeing that we probably have more in common than the mainstream media would have allowed us to believe in the past.
Okay, you say that, but there are some things that you say I find, and again, I'll give you a chance to explain them, that I think that are divisive and may sort of contradict what you're saying.
Really,
but before we get there, can we talk news of the day, politics of the day, and then we'll get into that? Is that cool?
Sure.
Can we do that?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start with the breaking news. The first Democratic senator publicly questioning President Joe Biden, his election chances, after 7 House lawmakers broke party ranks and urged the 81-year-old to step aside. It's Colorado Senator Michael Bennet. He told my own network, and he said this on the record, Candace, that he expects the president to lose to Donald Trump by a landslide, and he heavily suggested that Joe Biden should end his candidacy. So then, Candace, this happened on MSNBC. Let's watch.
We all have your support to be the head of the Democratic ticket.
As long as it's up to the president to decide if he is going to run. We're all encouraged.
Hey, Nancy Pelosi, though, our favorite scammer. I ain't gonna lie, man. Big money Pelosi, man.
Encouraging him to make that decision because time is running short. I think overwhelming support of the caucus. It's not for me to say. I'm not the head of the caucus anymore. But he's beloved. He is respected. And people want him to make that decision.
Hey, appreciate you pulling up, man.
He has made the decision. He has said firmly this week he is going to run. Do you want him to run?
I want him to do whatever he decides to do. And that's the way it is. Whatever he decides, we go with.
Okay, so
Especially when we talking about sleepy ass Joe. He don't know Zelensky from Putin.
So we're gonna trust this man to make the right decision. for the country. Oh, really? Man, ain't that crazy? When his son and his wife keeping him in power just so she can brag about it to the neighborhood, and the son wants to stay in power just so he can avoid jail time for being a crackhead with a gun.
So some people said, "Hey, wait a minute.
That's something."
She's not exactly saying Joe Biden, as many Democrats are saying now. Joe Biden is in that. He is the candidate. We stand by our candidate, and she's not exactly emphatic about it. Do you disagree with that? What do you think?
No, she's not emphatic about that statement at all. But what I would say is that when I watch that, there's something about it that feels performative to me. And I think a lot of people feel that way, that suddenly everybody's pressed the button and it's like throw Joe Biden under the bus and pretend that we just found out at the debate that he was mentally deteriorating. I actually was covering today on my show how George Clooney.
I ain't gonna lie. After that debate, bro, every Democrat was just like, hey. They were like, nah, get his ass up out of here. Fuck him, bro. We don't need him no more.
I don't know if you saw this, but he wrote an op-ed in the New York Times, essentially being very kind. I love Joe Biden, all this stuff. I saw him weeks ago at a fundraiser, and he just wasn't the same, and he can't go on. And he's calling for Joe Biden to step aside. And the question is, okay, you saw him at a fundraiser weeks ago. Why didn't you write this op-ed weeks ago? Why did you wait until the debate? So a lot of people are questioning whether or not there's already been a decision made and everyone already knows he's going to step aside, and they're just kind of prepping the public on that statement. And I know that's might seem cynical to you, but that's definitely what it looks like to me. I mean, we've been saying this about his mental health for years. Why are people just listening now?
There is a difference, though, Candace, between something, and that doesn't mean that someone can do the job, but hear me out here. There's a difference between something that happens to people naturally, right? We all get older. I have trouble sometimes recalling things that, I'm like, oh, what's that senator again? What's that name again? And that happens to the best of us. But there is a difference between that and someone who is, a perpetual liar, or doesn't believe in democracy, or is an election denier. Those two things are not equal. And I think that is the premise of what Democrats are operating on right now. Joe Biden may not be the man he was 5 years ago or 20 years ago or 30 years ago, but he's still better than the alternative.
Oh.
Yeah, obviously I fundamentally disagree with your assessment.
Talk about dangerous rhetoric.
So
talk about an unproven point.
Man. Actually, what you mean it is proven?
Actually, yeah, low key.
We got 4 years of Trump already. What are you talking about?
Compared to these past shitty 4 years of Biden. You're right.
Like, bro, there's no type of math you can tell me that's going to hit me with the, we've been better with Joe Biden over Trump. It's like, where? Bro, socially, economically, we've been effed up over, bro. Ever since Joe Biden came into office, we've been messed up socially and economically over BS.
I think it's very strange coming from a party where Hillary Clinton denied the election results for years. I mean, and said that her election was stolen from her. It's very weird for people to suddenly just not remember that. Sometimes it feels like the press
there
just
was no insurrection around that. I mean, she eventually
well, now you're accusing him of the insurrection. He has nothing to do with.
No, I said, but there was no insurrection around that. I didn't mention.
You can say that or not, but you just said he's an election denier. Okay, well that would put Hillary Clinton in the exact same camp, and so it's very weird when there seems to be this sort of like Men in Black memory wipe where people pretend that suddenly Trump was the first person who questioned election results. When that's been going.
You remember the accusations of Russian collusion?
And you know what's so crazy? Like, I always keep saying though, when the Democrats do it, it's cool. When Republicans do it, it's now a crime. Like Bill Clinton.
Oh my God, they so bad. They're so evil.
Man, but watch us do the same thing in y'all face. And what are we doing now? If it's a Democrat, it's cool though.
Going on for a very long time in America.
Candace, hear me out here. There's a difference between questioning an election, the results of an election, which happened with Al Gore and George Bush, than having almost every court in the land disagree with the assessment that the election was stolen. There's a difference between questioning an election than saying it was stolen. There's a difference between someone saying, I thought I should have won, and there were, I had all these wins that were, that were not at my back. Then someone saying, you know what, the election was stolen, and that these people are heroes who actually desecrated the Capitol and beat up police officers, and a police officer ended up dying. That's a whole different thing. Those two are not equal.
So your old network even debunks the points that you just made. Obviously, the person that died that day was Ashley Babbitt. The only person who died on that day.
My old network does
was
not debunk that. Candace,
yeah, they absolutely. I covered it on my show. Even
no,
CNN.
I work there. They do not. They do not.
Well, I have my computer. Do you want me to bring it up live? The CNN article where they debunked that Brian, who you're talking about, the police officer, died that day. He didn't.
I didn't
die
say
that
he died
day.
that day. I said
okay, correct.
Died.
Let me finish this. You said he died because you're trying to make people believe that it had something to do with what happened.
Yeah, like,
he died of a stroke, a completely unrelated stroke days later. So that narrative that was quickly pushed out by CNN was then subsequently debunked. So the only person that died that day was Ashley Babbitt, and Ashley Babbitt was a Trump supporter. So only a Trump supporter died on that day.
Wasn't the girl who got shot trying to get into
the
office? I ain't gonna lie though, like.
You stupid.
I think it was to the Congressional Hall.
Yeah.
And
nobody was really complaining because we was like, girl, come on now.
Regarding the insurrection narrative, there are questions that still have not been answered that seem implausible to me. I happened to be on that day in DC 9 months pregnant, and it's just stunning to me that that whole summer DC burned and nobody cared, and then suddenly people are talking about an insurrection and nobody is asking the common sense question of why the FBI, while they can lock up grandmas for having walked into the Capitol, some of these charges are heinous, absolutely heinous. You see these people on camera just for simply walking in
5
at
years
the
in
beckoning
federal prison
of
for being there, for just being there. People's getting 5-10 year sentences.
And they're telling your ass, oh, well, you shouldn't have pulled up, man. Hey, that's what you get for being a Trump supporter. If you'd have pulled up to Biden, that'd never happen. Maybe you should vote for Biden.
Security guards who allowed them in
I guess.
were put into prison for a very long time. So I'll ask you the question: do you think it's a legitimate stance, or that it's legitimate that the FBI can't figure out who it was that dropped off pipe bombs the night before?
No, I don't think that any of what you said is very relevant, because the facts speak for themselves. No, I don't think that it's relevant. I think talking about the FBI is really deflecting the attention from what really happened. A friend of mine, Michael Fanone, was a police officer who fought that day, who had a heart attack, who had a head injury, who was beaten with flagpoles and beaten with sticks by people who were in that crowd. The officer who died of a stroke, shortly after. It's surprise. I think that it would be tough to say that the stress that he suffered from that did not have something to do with it. Ashley Babbitt broke into the Capitol. It's awful that anybody.
Yeah, George Floyd taking those drugs had nothing to do with him suffocating. No, it had nothing to do with him dying that day. Him taking those drugs had nothing to do with it. Yes, same as that. Wild.
They died. Police officers, you see the tape on camera, telling everyone to stand down as she tried to enter. She was not complying. As people say, when police officers or officials tell you to do something, one should comply. And when she tried to break into the Capitol and defy the officers' commands, they did what they had to do, and she ended up dying. It's awful that it happened, but to say that she died, and I assume insinuate that it was because of some nefarious actions by the officers.
Let's just keep going down that George Floyd line. Like, I'm assuming the reason he died was because he was probably resisting, and probably because he had a influx of drugs in his system.
On God, man, come on now.
Right? Like, well, I mean, if we're judging it the same way.
Just think that is, beyond the pale and does not actually fit a solid narrative of what actually happened.
Well, it's very dizzying. I'm actually dizzy right now because your entire perspective has been pro BLM, and your entire perspective on your network has been essentially that it was totally fine for the officers that were bludgeoned, the officers that were killed, the officers all throughout New York City in the BLM riots. You even had Yale graduates.
Can we keep the focus?
Please let me finish. I just allowed you to finish. I just think it's nice to allow me to finish since I'm a guest on your show.
But I want you to.
You had them throwing bombs,
I want you to keep the focus on the insurrection and not on
Molotov
BLM.
cocktails. In the very same summer that you're talking about the insurrection, Molotov cocktails were thrown into police cruisers during the BLM George Floyd riots. And you didn't seem to have the same sensitivity toward police officers.
We're not talking about BLM. Can we?
But it's relevant because it was happening in the exact same city. Okay. And so suddenly, like I said, I'm just dizzy because I can't figure out whether or not you care about police officers or you don't care about them, because now you're sharing emotional stories and now you're you're cutting me off when I want to share one about a Molotov cocktail that was thrown into a police cruiser in New York by some college.
That's a lot of these Democrats have selective outrage.
Graduates in the media, the platform that you were on, cheered it on because this was about justice. But suddenly, when it's patriots, you want to talk about the sad stories of the police officers. You're now saying that because you don't comply, you can get shot. That's fine if that's your perspective. And Ashley Bobbitt wasn't complying, but then we should probably revisit the George Floyd riots.
Many Americans can be deemed as patriots in this country, even.
Okay, well, I don't know why you're cutting me off. I haven't cut you off. I'm just trying to get out my point.
I'm trying to tell you because we have very limited time, and the reason I'm cutting you off is because I want you to stick to the subject because you're deflecting and you're talking about.
I'm not deflecting. I'm not deflecting.
Let me make a point across. And BLM has nothing to do with the insurrection. We're talking about the events that happened in Washington.
Whoa! You tell me you can't relate them?
I don't know about that.
You can tell me how, like, you know, BLM rioting and, you know, basically pillaging stores and all that good stuff. That wasn't kind of, can't see that as an insurrection.
Yeah, I'm about to say that's the same thing they accused the January 6th insurrectionists of.
You know, but they was
rioting, pillaging, damaging, breaking shit.
During them BLM riots, a whole lot of police got hurt. Well, we don't want to talk about that, huh?
People that died during them, because the BLM riots happened across the country.
Oh, God.
I just want to know what the definition of an insurrection is, because when I was living in D.C. and the BLM was pulling down statues, they were marching on Washington, the media was fine with it. So it's confusing because the Brett Kavanaugh hearings and the women were storming into the Capitol. They were lining in the hallways.
I'm dizzy now because you're talking about
I'm really confused about when it's an insurrection and when it's not an insurrection, because the Brett Kavanaugh hearings definitely looked like the definition of an insurrection when they were chasing down senators in hallways trying to stop them from voting. But for some reason, the media supported that because, like, #MeToo. Again, I'm just trying to get a consistent definition of when it's okay to storm the Capitol building and when it's not okay to storm the Capitol building because it's an insurrection.
But Candace, we're not talking about BLM. And we're not.
That's the problem. We're never talking about anything Democrats do.
I want to get back on the subject because this is not helping anyone. This conversation is not helping anyone. So let's get back on the subject. BLM and what happened has nothing to do, and we can litigate that and we can talk about that. This is not a conversation about BLM. This is a conversation about what happened on January 26th, and this is it's not about Brett Kavanaugh. Okay.
Well, they stopped a vote, so I just think that might be relevant to your insurrection.
Okay. So, do you believe the election was stolen? Because on July 21, you tweeted. This is July of 2021. You tweeted, "quote It has now been proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris cheated in the 2020 election." Do you still believe the election?
That's was stolen. Yeah, I do.
Was stolen because even Trump's own Justice Department, the Supreme Court, courts all over the land said that there was actually no evidence to substantiate a stolen election in 2020. It was the
I believe the election was stolen in 2020.
History. You do believe that?
Yes.
Okay. Why do you believe that?
All right, she's standing
because
on
it's pretty obvious that COVID was used as a mechanism to fundamentally change the way that people vote. They were passing through absurd legislation, essentially saying that every single person would get a mail-in ballot, even if they hadn't requested one. And then there was actually footage of people dropping off multiple mail-in ballots when the counting stopped in the middle of the night. So yes, I believe that our election was stolen. We don't have to wax poetic about it. We're not going to agree on this issue. You're going to get the talking points that. No,
I'm not going to get talking points. That's what I wanted to. I just want to get.
Yes, I still believe that.
Okay, great. Thank you for answering that. And that is where I want to keep this on the subject and not deflect to something else. Okay. And so, I don't work for CNN anymore. So, I don't associate me with.
So you could have fooled me.
That because I don't work for CNN anymore. One of the reasons that I brought up that tweet to discuss, 2020 election and beyond is because do you think it's fair to say, I think that you've had a political evolution over the last couple of years. Do you think it's fair to say, I think that you've become much more conservative in your thinking and in your stance and things that you say. Do you think it's fair to say that you've become more outspoken and more conservative on issues over the last couple of years?
I think I've thought more about what it actually means to be a conservative, and I would say that I've probably become infinitely.
I think for everyone individually, if you haven't observed what's kind of been going on politically in the last couple of years, and it hasn't made you really assess where you stand politically, or really assess where you see yourself on the political or the what am I trying to say?
Political spectrum?
Yeah, the political spectrum as far as how you view things in the world. Like, I think that everybody's kind of had to go through that process individually in the last couple of years with everything that's went on. If you even date it back to like the C virus and stuff like that, I think everybody's kind of had to make that assessment. Like, hold on, how do I feel on these issues?
Yeah, like, so what do I want to happen?
Yeah, like, hold on, because I don't like what's going on now, so how do I change that?
Yeah, because remember, the government affects how you and your family gonna live at the end of the day.
Facts.
More committed to my Christian faith, and so that might read as more conservative over the years. I think that's fair.
You've been more committed to your Christian faith. How does that play into your thoughts about politics?
When we think about conservatism, we think about tradition. It's traditionalism, and when I'm thinking about which traditions I want to uphold, it's the Catholic faith, it's Christianity, and I think I've now been in politics for 8-9 years. When I started, I was young, I was single, I was running around wearing a MAGA hat, and now I'm a married mother of 3, and a lot of the conversations that we are having are heavier. We're talking about the future of this country that my children are going to have to live in. When we talk about any of these ideologies, we're talking about what they're learning in school today versus what you and I were learning when we were in school, and that has been a radical transformation. So it means more to me, and I think a lot of people, when I was pregnant with my first child, said, motherhood will change you, like it will soften you. And I actually found that politically, motherhood actually hardened me.
How so?
Because I realized that these conversations matter. These are not just talking points. This is not somebody talking in a news hit. This is going to have real world implications for my children.
Listen,
and giving you one example of that would be the dawn of the trans indoctrination that you and I did not go through in school. That to me is a very severe thing. I think it's demonic, quite literally demonic, as in, worshiping Baphomet. It goes back a long time. And I'm going to use my platform.
You said worshiping what? I couldn't hear you. Sorry.
Baphomet.
Okay, got it. Well, here's the thing. I don't know about, I'm not sure I would call it an indoctrination. I do believe that it's legitimate to say that you have questions about it because it's a lot to take in. I wouldn't necessarily call it an indoctrination. And when I grew up, there were definitely trans people. Nigga,
where? Bro, when I grew up, bro, I was kind of in the mental hospital. Like, let's be real.
Yeah, that's true.
There wasn't an awareness of it in the world or the country at large. But I remember trans people growing up. I remember people who were cross-dressers growing up. My girlfriend's brother was a transvestite.
And yeah, they were social pariahs, not socially accepted. That's the difference. If you dated back 20, 30 years, they were kind of outcasts, not propped up to be this brave social warrior that they are today. Like, it's crazy to transition.
That's what I'm saying.
No.
It was only 1%. 1% of the USA were just making all these laws and doing everything for them. It's like, why are we bending the knee to these people? Like, they don't even really want it like that.
Growing up. So there were definitely people who were out there who were part of the trans community. And I remember the threats that Chris got from, my girlfriend's brother. I remember people on the street throwing things at him and threatening him. So I'm not sure it's an indoctrination. I think it's just maybe an awareness of things that happen in society. And that doesn't mean that the pendulum doesn't swing too far sometimes, but I'm not sure I would call it an indoctrination. That's all I have to say about that.
Well, when I was in school, I learned that it was a mental disorder. I know that's changed, but it was in the DSM-5 as a mental disorder. And I accept that there are mental disorders, and people that are suffering from mental disorders should never be treated by people harassing them or people yelling at them or calling them names. So I'm sorry that someone that you knew went through that. But, when people had mental disorders, it wasn't, at least it wasn't commonplace to try to teach them about and normalize the mental disorders in classrooms, because children are experimenting with ideas and children always want to be different. Yeah. And if you say to kids, obviously propaganda works. If you tell kids smoke cigarettes, they all start smoking cigarettes. We learned this. And then
you're seeing what, bro? Yeah, low key. And they even tell kids start smoking cigarettes. They tell kids start vaping. Like, you know how much kids are honestly vaping in high school now? It's absolutely crazy.
In the bathroom, in between classes, on the school bus.
It's so crazy.
It's crazy, though.
Kids, not even 18, but they're getting this stuff. They're addicted to vaping and they're only 16 years old. It's like really?
Appreciate
In
y'all
my
in the chat.
generation,
Make
we
sure to like
stopped
the
out
video.
smoking cigarettes because of the reverse course on that, and saying like, no, actually, cancer kills. And they taught us in the classroom that cancer kills, and now the majority
On
of people who
YouTube
were smoking
and
like
Rumble.
crazy in the
go.
80s are not smoking anymore. So we know that psychological conditioning works, and that the majority of these 12-year-olds, 11-year-olds, 10-year-olds are not non-binary. They're just learning that as a way to be different, they can experiment with these things. And unfortunately, these have very evil results, because kids are being put on drugs that are quite literally used on pedophiles.
Well, that's not necessarily so. But listen, let me just say that about
is a
these.
drug.
I think that there are a lot of things.
Chemical castration drugs?
Wow, on kids?
Whoa.
Yo, she be dropping bombs out of nowhere. I swear to God.
And pedophiles in prison, and that's what's being given to children.
There's a lot to respond to that as far as the indoctrination. If it was an indoctrination, then I went to a Catholic school. So then I would be, a straight male married to a woman who attends church every single day. If there was any sort of indoctrination.
That's been the popular narrative in ideology in America since its inception. But I would say in the last 20, 30 years, you have seen a lot more of this gay agendas be propagandized and employed.
Bro, they didn't give these dudes probably 100 more days outside of a whole month of June. So not only they have Pride Month, but they have transgender Uncle Day, bro.
Yep.
It's trust me, bro. It's getting crazier and crazier.
Popped up in movies and media.
Yeah, and it's kind of up to us to low-key ignore it. Let them know that, if y'all keep doing this, y'all won't get our money.
That was happening. So
Disney?
Apparently the indoctrination at the Catholic school did not work on me, because I ended up being the exact opposite of what they wanted. The other thing is that the whole idea that they're giving young children drugs at an age, and the children are getting to decide at an age that they need these medical drugs for transitioning, that is absolutely not true.
What do you mean that's not true? You can get,
and also
you can get puberty blockers as a child. I had a whole person on my show who spoke to that transition
of the family, you can get puberty blockers as a child, but the parents have to decide that. That's not some
so they can get
child
puberty blockers.
Who's decided? The parent and the child gets to decide that. So
okay, but that they should puberty blockers fundamentally alter them for life.
Disorder. You understand that it has not been, it's been deemed not to be a mental disorder, and then you're saying that that you're. In your rhetoric, you're saying that it's a mental disorder.
It is a mental.
And let's shout out to our sponsors, man. Let's join Inna Siegel, award-winning, best-selling author of The Secret Language of Your Body. This is a rare and deeply transformative event where she will share her insights and guide you through a powerful healing process to release pain and trapped emotions. She's also giving away a free healing audio you can download at the end to help you on your healing journey. Click the link to register, man. Shout out to the sponsor. We appreciate you.
Let's go.
That's what I learned in school.
It's not a mental disorder. Okay,
if you think that you're a boy and you're actually a girl, you are suffering from a mental disorder, obviously, because you can't actually change your sex, obviously.
I know plenty of children now. I know plenty
you can play dress up, but you can't change your sex.
I know plenty of young people and old people who are trans, right? And they are not pretending. And it is not a mental disorder.
Well, it is pretending, because you will literally never be able, if you are a little boy, to grow up and have a baby, because you're not a little girl.
I would hope that your child would not grow up, or your children would not grow up, and then thinking that they're trans, and then their parents telling them the exact opposite.
I would tell them that they have a mental disorder, and we're going to get them help.
I want to play this.
Bruh. This man is not really speaking up for that yet. I hope you wouldn't tell your children that they're trans and they need to get help. Yes, that's exactly what I'm gonna tell my kid. I'm like, I don't know who told you that, but take me to him, because one, I gotta beat their ass, and then second, you need to get some help.
And honestly, for real, from my personal stance, you're sick if you push your kid in that direction. Like, oh, okay, yeah, explore that. Yeah, go down that road. Yeah, I hear you. Like, I understood. I knew you was always different. Like, I fully support you.
Bro,
I feel like you're sick.
You're sick?
I feel like you're sick.
Because, to continue this conversation, when I say that, I think that your views have changed over time. This is a clip from one of your shows. It was just last week as we continue this conversation. It's about flat Earth and round Earth and conspiracies. Let's play this.
Sure. If there's a bunch of people that believe something, I now want to know what it is that they believe.
I believe there's a glass dome over the earth, and we've never been past the firmament.
On God, and they just say, "Ain't know what, man." There's a big old ice wall, but I promise you, man, I'm gonna die with my steak. My steak.
And of course,
Shout out
he
Bryce
pushed me on
Mitchell,
this,
bro.
and he was talking about the Earth curvature and science. And I said to him, "Listen, I'm not a flat earther. I'm not a round earther. Actually, what I am is I am somebody who has left the cult of science. I have left the mega church of science, because what I have now realized is that science, what it is actually, if you think about it, is a pagan faith."
Well,
it is. Okay. They do say science is religion, low key.
Candace,
it really kind of is.
Yeah.
Do you actually believe this stuff, or are you saying it because you want to generate outrage and you want more attention and you want people to sort of click on your show? Do you actually believe that? I mean, science is science. What do you mean the cult of science? What do you believe? You're not a flat earther or a round earther? I mean, sometimes I think you're a very bright and very intelligent woman. And I said, is she just playing in our faces? Like,
yo, that's wild. Sometimes I just think you're a very bright. It's like, whoa, so what do you think about me the rest of the time? Like,
I ain't gonna know. Right now, I think you a dumbass.
Yeah, like crazy.
What's that all about?
First, let me ask you, did you watch the full episode, or did your producers pull a clip out of context?
No, I did not watch the full episode, but I'm asking.
Well, let me put it into context. Yeah, no, sure. I'm happy to put it into context, because that's the beauty of the media. It's just always a clip, and then people go, oh, what's going on here? So that was an episode we were talking about birth control. I was sharing I'm very passionately against the birth control because of all the women who in my life are suffering side effects, who can't get pregnant, and are realizing that inserting copper IUDs into your body over time can have an impact. And women were sharing their stories online about how the doctor told them it was safe and effective, and it obviously wasn't safe and effective long term, because people just simply accept what the experts tell them without thinking. We saw this during COVID, so I'm very comfortable saying this. But if I had been saying this years ago, people would have been like, she's crazy. But this is what we mean when we say science. And by the way, these ideas, if you want someone even more brilliant than
science got us scarred from that COVID. Like, trust the science. Well, look where that got us. Like, come on now. Let's be real. Science got to do a little better now. Yeah, y'all done got on our bad side. Now we're just looking at y'all kind of funny.
Wrote about this. C.S. Lewis would be a great starting place. He termed this scientism, where the people that are in control of science create a faith. They create a faith by saying, well, the experts say 6 feet social distancing works. And so everyone starts walking around with 6 feet social distance between them, until Fauci comes around like he did recently and say, we kind of made that up. We're just guessing. The experts.
Yeah, people follow it around like it's a core belief, like religiously follow it. Like,
it's like, oh yeah, like we thought y'all did vigorous studies and all that. I'm like, no, we just freestyled the whole thing.
Like, what you mean? It just sounded good.
On God, and it looked good, and we thought it worked, and yeah, y'all took it right, so we made money. So to us, it was good. To y'all, I don't know. Y'all might have. Yeah,
like, what do you mean? We thought that 6 feet was scientifically backed. Like, no, we just meant like so you don't get sneezed on, my nigga. Like,
so the COVID vaccine, if you get it, you will not transmit or be able to get COVID.
Exactly,
and then they go, actually, that wasn't true. So people, and without knowing that, subjected their bodies and said, okay, I'm going to get this vaccine. Then they say the science has changed. Well, if the science changes and you've already impacted your body, as many women, I did not get the COVID vaccine, and I'm not meaning to judge people who did, but a lot of my female friends were having menstruation issues, as we talked about on the show. A lot of my female friends had miscarriages, as we talked about on the show, simply because they trusted the experts, not because they actually knew that the science was accurate.
Anyway, though, we're doing a show right now, but don't worry, we got the podcast coming later.
That they had a miscarriage because of the vaccine. That's
they had first and foremost, they've already admitted that the vaccine, like we're now past COVID era scientism. So they've admitted that the 6 feet social distancing was fraudulent science. They admitted that the masking was fraudulent science.
You realize you're looking at something in hindsight. Hindsight is 2020 in your Monday morning.
Well, that's the point. And until you get hindsight, it's just a faith. And that is what I am talking about on my show. It is just a faith. People placed faith. It was not a science. It was a faith. Okay.
You said a phase or a faith?
So that's a faith. You just believe it. You can't see it. You trust the person. You trust this person who is a science, who's a doctor, who you've enacted as the Lord in your life, and you shouldn't do that. Common sense to me when I was a kid. Common sense to me when I was a kid, like when people were pushing birth control pills on me when I turned like 15, every time I went to the doctor, women who are watching this will relate. They're suddenly like, birth control.
But I'm not even gonna lie. She's making a great point. He's saying, who should you trust? But the scientists, even the I would say the deep thinkers who are doing the forward thinking on these type of viruses, those are the people who we should question. Like,
yeah, the scientists, the researchers, the
like,
makers of this, like the chemists.
Blind faith in them niggas could be dangerous if nobody's checking their work. That's a part of the scientific theory, is to get your work checked.
Oh God, and we could go over what happens, but we'd have to switch over to Rumble before we explain those type of side effects. I'll tell you that right now.
You got to pimple birth control. I didn't need to trust the science or the experts I just said to myself, yeah, probably not a good idea to microdose yourself with hormones every single day.
What does that have to do with a worldwide pandemic and epidemic where people were?
I'm answering the clip that you just showed. I'm putting this into context.
I know, but you're going.
Yeah.
But
because that's also what I talked about on my show. This is the beauty of actually watching a full episode and not using a clip. So I said, now for me, it's going to require a little bit more than a faith, right? Because I'm realizing scientism just gets people to do things based on emotion without actually, and just going, trust the experts. I'm not trusting the experts on anything anymore. Okay, I'm going to actually take a look at things and actually try to discern something by myself, because the experts have lies.
Isn't that based on emotion? People's lives are ruined.
Well? People got myocarditis. Kids died from heart attacks, and they.
Candace.
Yeah, that's that shit that'll get you.
Candace, you ain't about to do us like that.
Flagged.
Legitimacy, conspiracy theory. Yeah, let's go into this one. Lightning round. Let's go.
So I want to know, and you can tell me yes or no if you agree or disagree, because some of these things are deemed as conspiracy theories.
They're going off on the
flat
vax
Earth
and,
or round Earth. I know that you said maybe that was
that.
taken out of context. So
tune into our
I'm going to say if you agree or disagree. These are not clips. These are just quotes. The 1969 moon landing was staged in Arizona.
I 100%, after reading this book, Chaos, believe that the moon landing was a complete and
no, not Arizona, Hollywood.
Bro, in my opinion, look. I believe we went to the moon, but I think we're capping by what we've seen on it. We didn't just see a whole bunch of rocks. We seen some shit we just can't tell nobody about.
I believe I kind of align with you, and I believe that the video they showed us, that's Hollywood.
Definitely Hollywood.
That wasn't real footage. So, like, come on, y'all.
Where the stars at? Where the stars?
Hey, ridiculous hoax on the American people.
We went to the moon.
I used to not believe. I actually always had an instinct about that one, and then I read a lot into it, and I was just like, okay, this is actually kind of ridiculous. It's like the Easter Bunny for adults, you know?
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. The U.S. government was behind 9/11.
You're damn right.
No, I don't believe the U.S. government was behind 9/11.
You don't. You think it was just as reported?
Not as reported. Obviously not as reported. I did a whole episode on that. People should watch it.
Okay.
There's tons of things that we weren't told about it.
It's still up online. I would. Okay, go ahead. People can watch it. All right. The mass shootings that have been faked to promote gun control laws.
No, I don't believe that.
You don't believe that? Okay. Barack Obama was not born in America.
I don't believe that.
I don't even know where that one comes from.
Bro, I don't know where that comes from anyway. Like, bro, Barack Obama was born in Hawaii. Like, come on now. Like, I don't even like Barack Obama, and I can admit that.
And if you look at him, he does kind of look a Pacific Islander.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't know anything about that conspiracy theory.
No, I'm just asking you. Well, you don't know where it comes from.
But if he said, now, do you believe Barack Obama's a homosexual? Now, I'd be like, I'm not gonna lie.
He was getting butt played with the crack rocks.
Oh, God, man, with the crack rocks, man, with the crackhead. Wild boy.
I literally don't know where it comes from. I mean, I was quite young, like I was in 2008. I hadn't even voted at that time, so I didn't follow. I guess the best way to say is I was in college. I didn't follow the Barack Obama Kenya thing that went on.
That was beyond 2008. The birtherism thing with Donald Trump.
I was not at all engaged in politics. I was in college when he won, and
okay.
Do I seem like a dishonest person? Would I not tell you if I followed it and believed it?
I was in middle school when
if
that
you
man
didn't follow
won.
it and you don't know. But I'm surprised that you, as a journalist and someone who is so opinionated, that you haven't done research on that. But if you haven't,
you're inspiring me to. I will.
Okay. The CIA killed JFK.
Damn.
Yes, I believe that.
You do. Why is that?
Yes. Because there would be no other reason for them to lock down the files for as long as they did, and then come up with a stupid Russia did it thing that long. The only time you would lock down files like that regarding a sitting president being shot. And by the way, if they knew Russia had done it, we would have gone to full-blown war because they would have killed the sitting president. And also because, and this is a very interesting fact that I learned in this book, Chaos, that people should read and actually become very informed about this. The individual that shot the individual who shot JFK, his name was Jacob Rubenstein, was subsequently MK Ultra'd. That was a government program in which they had realized that if you give people a cocktail of drugs, you could essentially not brainwash them, but you could you could make them crazy instantly. They could give you schizophrenia instantly. So the doctor that was behind that, Dr. Leslie, this is all a fact, by the way. This is not like these are declassified. The reporter who worked on this.
Imagine brainwashing people through like psychedelics. Ooh. Like, bro, that's what the government was really doing.
Off acid of the worst, though.
Just like completely warping their psyche and like turning them into puppets.
Bro, making them whole different people. Seeing if they could do it. Like, wow, bro.
That was the sickest part.
I wonder if I can destroy your whole personality with these drugs and then make you to a whole new person. I wonder. It's like, that's crazy, bro.
For 22 years. 22 years of his life working on this was Tom O'Neill. So I know you're laughing, but I'm encouraging you to actually read it. It could just be something you didn't know. The book is called Chaos, the CIA, the 1960s, and MK Ultra. And they MK Ultra'd, admittedly, in the documents, they MK Ultra'd Jacob Rubenstein, which is why the judge on the day that he appeared, the second day that he appeared, said, what happened to him? I was speaking to him totally fine yesterday, and now you're telling me that he's legally insane.
But what I want you to know is, and I think the book is called Chaos, as you said, people read it. Some of the things that you're mentioning and the names that you're mentioning have been written about before, and just as maybe you weren't aware of the birth certificate, the other things perhaps you weren't aware of
don't do it like
the
that.
investigations that have taken place before that.
You just can't shoot a president in broad daylight and then we pretend we don't know who did it. That's just that. You have to be a conspiracy theorist to believe our government had nothing to do with the shooting of JFK. That's my viewpoint. It's too ridiculous.
Okay, I'll disagree with that because I just don't. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. Do you take offense when people call you a conspiracy theorist?
Do you think what?
Do you take offense when people call you a conspiracy?
No, because I've studied the history of psychology in this country, and I know that term was actually entered into the American mindset after the shooting of JFK. They started using the term conspiracy theory to make people get off of their tail or not ask questions by making it seem like it's crazy to want to know who shot a sitting president in broad daylight. So on my show, I cover a lot about the history of psychology and propaganda. Edward Bernays, who's considered the father of propaganda in the United States. You will learn that terms like that are meant to make you think.
And what better way to spread disinformation or misinformation than just muddying the waters, throwing out some false narratives, shit that you know is like just false as hell, but like shit.
Bro, what's the best way to spread a false narrative but through psychology, where you're supposed to find better thinking through?
And then nowadays, what's the best way to spread false propaganda through psychology in an accessible way to everybody that we all spend hours on?
Social media.
God damn it.
Yep.
Ding, 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 ding.
Hello.
Think that there's nothing here. You're a conspiracy theorist. No, it's common sense that the government would not hide who shot a sitting president unless it was done by the government. I think that's pretty obvious.
Yeah, and quite often the answer is the most obvious. Sometimes things are just conspiracy theories. Okay, so listen, to be honest with you, we had this debate and discussion about whether or not to do this interview today because of something that you said on your show, and members of my staff took offense to it. I actually took offense to it, and I did not watch the whole show. I saw the clip, but on your show, and I'm going to play the soundbite, and I want you to explain it because you said specifically you were commenting on Dr. Joseph Mengele, right, and the experience, his experiments on prisoners in Auschwitz, and you said this, and I want to get you to explain to the audience of what you meant. Here it is.
On innocent people. Candace, come on, that's the difference. They experimented on twins. I mean, some of the stories, by the way, sound completely absurd. I'm like the idea that they just like cut a human up and then sewed them back together. Yeah. Why would you do that? Literally, even if you're the most evil person in the world, that's a tremendous waste of time and supplies. Just slice a person in half and sew them together. That just sounds like bizarre propaganda.
Okay, so, but what you're saying is based on what you feel, again, as you say, based on feelings rather than fact. There are so many facts to support what happened with Dr. Mengele. I wonder if you understand just how harmful it is for you to say things like that when there is documented evidence of Mengele's experiments. It is documented. It is not propaganda.
So would you like me to put that clip in context? Because I think it's really relevant. Sure. So first and foremost, I said they, which would probably indicate to most people that I was speaking about more than one person. And the show was about the things that we learn in school, the most horrific things that we learn in school, and how I will show you that what we did in America is actually worse. So the truth is that they, the Nazi scientists, were brought over to the United States after the war, an operation known as Operation Paperclip. And the experiments that took place thereafter, the United States government, conducted way worse experiments, so chief among them being Sidney Gottlieb, who I spoke about on the show extensively in terms of the experiments that were enacted on our troops. Again, that terrifying book will really wake you up to what these Nazi scientists who were told are so horrific that we brought them over.
Bro, I gotta give that book a listen, bro. I gotta give it another listen.
Yeah,
now, bro.
okay.
Chaos.
Yeah,
it's an audio book too, so you can listen to the audio book. If you got YouTube, look up Chaos by Tim something. I'm gonna probably put it in the description later. But
the synopsis I read, it covers a hell of a lot. Not gonna lie, a lot of shit.
All right, but yeah. So please tune in.
The big piece, by the way, the reason why they cut out those 4 seconds and didn't talk about the entire monologue was because most Americans don't know about the other Holocaust that took place in the world, right? We can only talk about the feelings. You're talking about how people felt and your staff about a 4-second clip. Well, why don't you go talk to some of the Christians and maybe ask them how they feel about how it feels that when we talk about the Christian Holocaust, which is what this episode was about, the 12 million Germans that were ethnically cleansed, the Bolsheviks who mass murdered Christians, Henry Kogoda, who was the greatest mass murderer of the 20th century.
Bro, when she dropped that, I was like, bro, what? Like, literally, I was listening to work and I was like, bro, I ain't never heard of that. Like, wait, hold on. Millions of Germans, like, done in? Mm-hmm. Over a million, we didn't hear about this. Like, yeah, certified 13?
The untold story.
Man, the untold Holocaust story.
Who put us into concentration camps. Suddenly the media gets mad and they take out 4 seconds and they, again, somehow make it about Jewish people in the Holocaust. That's not the only Holocaust that happened. And I will use my platform to speak about the atrocities that Christians face, and I will do so unapologetically. So if you're looking for an apology for me saying that the idea...
He's like, yeah, bro, let me go ahead and state this out too. We're not saying that the Holocaust for the Jewish people ain't happened. We're saying that we're not taking any light for it. We're just saying that, well, I guess it happened to the Germans too. Like, God damn it.
That the Nazi scientists did this, and it was so horrific that we then decided to bring them over to the United States. You're not going to get one. I'm at a place where I'm really tired. Everybody's feelings mattering more than the history of what was done to Christians.
Okay.
I think it's okay for us to talk about the Christian Holocaust. It's 2024. Okay. Let's talk about the Bolshevik Revolution and what they did to Christians.
Okay, a couple of different things there. I'm not asking you to apologize. I just wanted to know what you meant by that. And what I heard in that clip had nothing to do with what you said, because you said you thought it was ridiculous, the method by which Dr. Mengele was doing his work.
I didn't say Dr. Mengele. I said they. So right there, you're live editing according to what Zionist media, who were upset that I talked about how Israel protected the mass murderers.
You think what let's just specifically, you think what happened with Dr. Mengele is true? You believe that?
There were definitively experiments on twins. I specifically said we were told, and I don't even think they still say this, by the way, and you can fact check this, that they cut. And I didn't even say a twin. I said they cut a human being, right? And then they sewed them back together. I don't know how this became about Dr. Mengele's twins.
Shit.
As the media just goes off and says whatever they want. I don't think they still say that. There were a lot of things that we learned, and I would talk about in this episode, that have since been updated, and have people will say that, okay, it wasn't that part that was true. The correct thing is this is what's happened. I'm not sure. I mean, you can definitely fact check that, and you should. Yes, I don't think anymore they teach that somebody was cut in half and then sewn back up like an individual. I don't think so.
I think that they still do teach the truth about what happened.
No, and it's not.
Let me ask you this. Why do you feel the need then to defend Nazis?
We'll pause for the cause. We got a word from our sponsors. Make sure to download the Rumble app, man. Once you download it, search for my channel, S.E.T Media, and follow the channel directly on the app, man. It's a lot more convenient for y'all. I know you
Play
got
Store.
The app. Carry it in your pocket. It's easier.
Apple Store.
This will make sure you get the notification every time we go live as well, so y'all don't miss out on none of the content, man. Click the link in the description or pin chat to download the Rumble app on your phone. It's free, so ain't got no excuses for you brokies out there. If you prefer to watch it on your big TV, it's also available on Apple TV, Android TV, Fire TV. If you got a Roku, if you got an LG, if you got a Samsung, it don't matter. If you're watching this shit on a potato, they got an app for you, my nigga. All you need to do is search for Rumble. Again, all you need to do is search for Rumble.
I love it.
or
Nazis aren't alive anymore, so we got to stop you calling everybody a Nazi.
Why do you feel the
What's up,
need
Gito?
then to sort of go down this rabbit hole and to defend something that was horrific and to say that, you know, we had other, why are you comparing what happened in the Holocaust to other atrocities? Because it's awful. Why can't you just stick with the Holocaust? And
why can't I cover Christian history? What is this? What do you mean?
You know, it's crazy. The Congo and Leopold, bro. This was the guy, the white man that went down there and collected their hands. I mean, he had their skulls, their hands. But we're talking about a whole tribe of these niggas. Hands missing because of this white man was just taking their hands, collecting them.
Just because he was sick? Or?
Yeah, bro, this dude was wild. Like, bro, the Congo and Leopold, bro, that man was wild.
God damn.
Stick with the Holocaust. What do you mean by that?
Actions? I don't understand that.
Nobody defended any actions. That episode was about the fact that after the war, and this was a BBC documentary, not a Candace Owens documentary. It's a BBC documentary and I played parts of the documentary. It talks about how the Allies committed atrocities against the German-speaking civilians. They were not people who voted for Hitler. They were not Nazis. They were children who were lined up and shot. Their bodies were thrown on the ground while they were alive, and they were rolled over on cars. The footage is in the BBC documentary. It's called The Savage Peace. When people watch this documentary, they are so astonished and shocked that we didn't learn about it in school that they begin asking real serious questions. And one of those questions that you ask is, why are we not told about the mass killing of Christians all around the world? What you just said, like, why can't we just let it be about the Holocaust? What is that? That's like the most selfish thing in the entire world. Let me finish. The most selfish thing in the entire world is for me to spend an hour talking about the atrocities that innocent Christians who had nothing to do with Adolf Hitler faced, and then to have Zionist media talking heads somehow make it about the Holocaust. It's not about the Holocaust, okay? Christians suffered too. In fact, we are the most persecuted religion in the world. And I am so sick of it. I am so sick of there can only be one victim narrative. And if you start talking about
and we are not the most persecuted in the world. Come on.
That is a fact. What are you saying? We're not the most persecuted in the world. Do you know what's happening in Armenia? Do you know what's happening in Nigeria? Do you know what just happened in Canada? The fake story that was propagated by all of the mainstream networks about the nuns, and they found the mass burial, which allowed 85 Catholic churches to be burned to the ground in the last 3 years in Canada. We are still being persecuted right now. So I take great offense to you coming in here about the sensitivities of the people that are working on your show when I'm sitting here telling you that I'm a Christian and I'm offended by what you're saying, and you laugh. You mock Christian persecution. Do you think people to laugh when someone tells you about Christian persecution? Because let me tell you something. If I had done that, I had laughed about the Holocaust, I would be chased out of polite society. Then don't laugh. Don't laugh at Christian persecution. Don't do it. Laughable
is mean that the whole.
I ain't gonna lie. You asking a gay man, an openly gay man, to respect the Christian prosecution, to respect the Christian religion? It's kind of sound fucked up, but it's a mute point to him. He doesn't care. Ain't nobody got time
for that. Well, in their eyes, they don't got time for it. I'm gonna be real with you. They just want to be right.
The name is in the term. It's laughable.
Do not laugh. You literally just laughed when I talked about Christian persecution. Don't do that ever again. Not in my presence.
What you're saying is, okay, Candace, thank you. So what you're saying is, you know what? The Holocaust was bad, but look over here. These people were worse than the Holocaust, so we should.
That's not that. First off,
that's what it sounds like. I'm telling you, that's what it sounds like.
You just said you didn't watch the episode.
No, but I'm saying that's what it sounds like. That's what you're saying. I don't have to watch the episode. I was listening to the words that you just said. You just spent 3 or 4 minutes talking about the other atrocities and how bad they were.
Yes, the other atrocities that have happened in human history outside of the Holocaust are things that we are relevant and allowed to talk about, especially when the numbers of Christians that were persecuted following the Russian Revolution and the manner in which they were killed, people that were beheaded, priests that were shot. Yes, it is. I can talk about Christian history, and I don't need to feel guilty about that, and I won't.
That's fine. All right, good. You don't have to feel guilty. You don't have to.
And please, genuinely. Please never, please, when I come on your show, have enough respect not to laugh when I talk about Christian persecution, because you would never do that if I was Jewish and I was talking about the Holocaust.
Oh, shit.
You would never do that.
You should have enough respect to know not to tell people how to react. You can't tell someone not to laugh.
Okay. Well, then I double dare you when a Jewish person is talking about.
Because you can't talk about Islam like that to a Muslim person.
Bruh, he'll be like.
No. Nah, more like fucking.
Oh, I'm done.
Bomb your host shit.
About persecution of Jews to laugh. You won't do it.
I won't do it because I actually believe that there were persecution of Jews, and
you don't believe that Christians were persecuted.
I believe that there is persecution of Christians. I don't think it's the most persecuted religion in the world. Okay, so listen.
Laughable.
Consider.
Laughable.
Okay, laughable. Good, you agree with me. Thank you. So listen, when you know what happened with you at was a Daily Wire, right? Is that the network you're on? What happened with you at the Daily Wire because of your stance on what's happening in Israel and what you just explained. My question to you is, because people think that you are you anti-Semitic?
No, I'm not
being
anti-Semitic.
a jackass.
Snarky comments.
Yeah, like come on now.
Go on.
Go on with what? You asked me a question. I answered it.
You said
I don't need to launch into defense of myself because I'm just not anti-Semitic. There's nothing that I hear that I need to add. I guess today anti-Semitism, the definition keeps expanding, and now I guess it means if you don't fall over yourself every time Bibi Netanyahu speaks, they're just going to call you an anti-Semite. Nope, I'm a Christian. Kids being bombed is upsetting to me, and I have a right to say that without being called an anti-Semite. If you want to call me an anti-Semite for it, I simply don't care.
I'm not calling you an anti-Semite. I'm at, because people call you that, and I think, look, if you there's the whole talk about Zionism and anti-Semitism and whatever. I think it's a conversation that you just can't win. But I would like for you to be able to explain yourself, because
Judaism is not Zionism, and it doesn't matter how many people insist that it is. It's just not. It's a political party, and it puts the interests of Israel above everything else. I grew up with Jewish people. Jewish people are my best friends. This is the nation of Israel is not Judaism. It's a nonsense to suggest that we can critique, as we did earlier, talking about Joe Biden, that we can critique our.
I don't think the bomb was appropriate. Considering what's going on in Gaza, like, damn, kid, you a little bit reckless. Like the bomb after called out the Jewish homies, like. But anyway, this is S.E.T with S.E.T Community, man. We got to get on to the next topic. We appreciate y'all for tuning in. This is S.E.T with S.E.T Community, man. We are typing out.
Oh, my.